I was standing on the edge of a cliff, literally and figuratively. One step could have ended everything, but what I found in the darkness saved me. The ending will surprise you, so stay until the end. I saw him just as the kids were finishing their song, that awkward elementary school version of America the Beautiful, where half the class forgot the words. Parents clapped, smiling too wide, checking their phones. I was halfway through a bad coffee, keeping one eye on my son chasing a soccer ball and the other scanning the crowd for Emily. She'd stepped away for a minute. That's when my gaze landed on him. Standing near the edge of the field, sunglasses tucked into his shirt, arms crossed. And even before I registered the face, I felt it. That gut-deep lurch. Max Barton. He hadn't changed much. Older maybe, but the same arrogant tilt of his head, the same sharp grin that meant trouble. He was looking straight at me. When our eyes met, he smiled. Not politely. It was the kind of smile you give when you're watching someone fall into a trap they don't even know they've stepped into. A memory surged from the back of my mind. Muddy shoes, a field party, his voice just above a whisper. "I'll ruin your life, Jack." That had been years ago. High school drama, a stupid fight over a girl. I'd forgotten the girl's name, but not him. He'd always been the type to carry a grudge like a trophy. Emily returned a minute later, brushing hair from her eyes and asking if the class was done. I nodded toward Max. "That guy looks familiar. I think I knew him back in school." Her eyes followed my finger. "Oh, him?" she said a little too fast. "That's Max. He's just a college friend. I ran into him last week." She said it like it meant nothing, just another face in the crowd. But her tone was too smooth, her smile too quick, and something cold uncoiled in my gut. I didn't press it. I just nodded and kept my expression flat. But I felt it, like a crack in the glass, hairline thin but spreading fast. On the ride home, she sang along to the radio while I stared out the window. I wasn't even thinking about Max anymore. I was thinking about her, the way she looked at him, the way she said his name like it didn't mean anything, and that feeling in my stomach, a mix of nausea and dread, wouldn't let go. The signs started small. A few days later, my daughter sat at the kitchen table, coloring her usual rainbows and oddly colored animals. I asked her how school was, just passing time. She looked up and said, "Mom's friend Max gave me candy. He said not to tell you." I kept my face calm. "When did Max give you candy?" I asked. She shrugged. "Last week, maybe. He came over when you were at work." Then she smiled and went back to her drawing like it didn't mean anything. But it meant everything. That night, after everyone was asleep, I checked the laundry. I don't know why. I was just looking. That's when I found the t-shirt, not mine. Faded black, with a university crest on the front. A school I didn't attend, but one I recognized. Max's college. He used to wear it all the time. I held it in my hands and stared at it for a long time. The next day, Emily tossed me her coat, asking me to hang it up. I did, and felt something in the pocket. A keychain. One was for our house. The other, a fob with a car rental logo. I stepped into the garage. Both our cars were there. So whose key was this? That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed watching the ceiling, hearing every creak of the house like it meant something. I thought about the t-shirt, the key, the candy, but mostly I thought about Max. A few nights later, I pulled out our photo albums. Not the digital ones, the real ones, the kind you actually flip through. I told myself I was looking for something normal, something to anchor me. But what I found made my skin crawl. In at least 3 recent photos, a school play, a birthday, a neighborhood picnic, Max was in the background, always far enough not to notice, always looking toward Emily. Not once was he looking at the camera, always at her. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Not even when my chest tightened every time I saw her smile at her phone, or when I'd hear the front door close during the day when I was working upstairs. She always had errands, always came back with something. Groceries, coffee, a scarf. But I wasn't guessing anymore. I knew. Still, I kept my mouth shut. I didn't explode. I didn't cry. That's not who I am. I come from a world of spreadsheets, facts, cause and effect. So I did what I knew how to do. I started preparing. Because Max wasn't here just to sleep with my wife. He was here to finish what he started all those years ago. He wanted to tear everything down. My family, my name, my life. And this time, I wouldn't wait until it was already gone to fight back. It didn't happen all at once. The suspicion came in slow, like a storm you can smell before it hits. After the kiss I saw on the camera, Emily and Max on my front porch, acting like it was their house, nothing felt real anymore. I watched the footage again that night, hands shaking as Max smiled straight into the lens and said, "Your hero has no idea. I told you I'd take everything from him." And Emily just laughed. She kissed him like she meant it, like she missed him. I thought I'd lose it. For a second, I almost did. Ended up on the bathroom floor, chest locked up, whispering, "This is the end." But the thing is, it wasn't. That moment didn't break me. It flipped something. I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to watch. And then I was going to burn every piece of what they'd built behind my back. First move, I hired a private investigator. The guy's name was Reed. Ex-cop, clean record, came recommended by someone at work who'd gone through a nasty divorce. I gave him Max's name, told him to track every step, every call, every meeting. I didn't care about the cost. I needed facts, dates, evidence, not just suspicion. While Reed followed them, I stayed quiet. At home, I played the same game Emily was. I smiled. I made dinner. I kissed her on the cheek before work. She acted distracted, distant. "Tired," she'd say. I nodded along, pretending not to notice how her phone never left her side or how she'd slip into the bathroom to take calls. I already knew who she was talking to. A few days in, Reed sent me his first batch. Photos. Max and Emily at a coffee shop sitting close in the corner. A printout of their call logs. Then came the real hit. A photo of a document signed with my name. But it wasn't my signature. It was forged. Max had started a company. A new real estate firm. Slick branding. Polished website. And the seed money had come from my joint account with Emily. Over $18,000 pulled in small, quiet transfers. Just enough to fly under radar. And somehow they'd used my name as the silent partner. My identity. My money. My life. Stolen while I made breakfast for our kids. That night I didn't sleep. I waited until the house was quiet and drove downtown. Sat in the office of a lawyer who didn't ask too many questions once she saw the documents. She looked me in the eye and said, "Play it smart. Don't blow up yet. Let them think they're safe." That was exactly what I planned to do. The next day, Emily brought it up. We were sitting on the porch. Cool evening, kids playing in the yard. She said, "I think I need a break." Just like that. I nodded like it made sense, like I hadn't already seen her tangled in Max's arms. "Take the time you need," I said. She looked surprised at how easy I took it. I wasn't. I needed her gone. She left that weekend, suitcase in hand, telling the kids she was visiting her sister. But Reed sent me the address of the Airbnb she booked with Max. Wine bottles. 2 nights. I said nothing. Let it all play out. While they played house, I got to work. Reed handed me everything. Text logs, video footage from the cafe, photos of Emily passing Max a manila envelope. Inside were copies of our bank records. Not just cheating anymore. This was fraud. This was planned. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Let her come back. Let her think I was still blind. Let them both believe they had already won. Because when I moved next, I wasn't just going to end it. I was going to bury them with it. I didn't eat the next morning. I poured coffee I didn't drink and watched the steam swirl until it faded. The house felt different without her in it. Quieter, colder, but not in a way I missed. The kids were still asleep upstairs, and for a moment, I just stood there listening. No lies, no fake smiles, no forced small talk over toast. Just silence. It was the first time in weeks I felt like I could breathe. But breathing didn't mean stopping. I had what I needed. Proof of the affair, the forged transfers, video footage of them passing financial documents like a couple of spies. Now it was about timing, about damage, about leverage. Reed was still following Max, digging deeper into the paper trail. I didn't need more footage of the two of them sneaking around. I needed something heavier, something that would tear through Max's little empire and take Emily's mask off in front of everyone who still believed she was someone worth defending. I started with the doorbell camera. Rewatched that clip. Emily kissing Max, Max looking right into the lens like he knew I'd see it. I downloaded the footage, clipped the audio, and dropped it onto a flash drive. Then I added screenshots of the bank transfers, a scan of the forged signature, a few snapshots of Emily and Max together at the cafe. I printed the worst one. Max's hand on her leg, her wedding ring in clear view. I put it all in a box. Then I waited. Emily came back Monday morning like nothing had happened, hugged the kids a little too tight, smiled like she'd found clarity, and dropped her suitcase by the stairs. I didn't ask how her sister was. She didn't offer. We moved around each other like strangers, careful not to break the silence. But I could tell she was watching me, gauging, testing the waters to see if anything had changed. It hadn't. Not for her. But I was already on the other side. That week I set the date. A neighborhood barbecue, casual, friendly, the kind of gathering where people let their guard down. I invited everyone. Friends, neighbors, even a couple co-workers who'd known Emily for years. I told them it was a celebration. Something light, something good. No one suspected what I had planned. I spent the next few days adding the finishing touches. I had Reed dig into Max's business. Turns out, the money trail didn't stop with our bank account. Max had looped in two other silent investors under false pretenses, promising high returns using funds that were never really his. I filed the reports with my lawyer. She told me we had enough to bury him in civil suits alone. The criminal side would follow. I told her not to send anything just yet. I needed one more play. When the day came, the weather was perfect. Blue skies, warm air, kids running through sprinklers while burgers smoked on the grill. I moved through the crowd like a good host, laughing at small talk, clinking beer bottles with friends. Emily wore a sundress I hadn't seen in months, hair curled just enough to look effortless. She looked happy, or maybe just relieved that I hadn't said anything. Max didn't show, but I wasn't surprised. Cowards like him never walk into fire. After the food, someone tapped a glass and called for a toast. I raised mine with the rest of them, smiling like I meant it. Then I walked over to Emily and handed her a small gift box, white with a silver ribbon. She looked surprised. "What's this?" she asked, voice all light and playful. I just told her to open it. Inside was the flash drive, a manila folder with the receipts and printouts, and one quote, printed in bold letters. "I'll take everything from him, even the kids." She froze. The noise around us kept going, but her face drained of color. People were already leaning in, whispering. I could feel the air shift. A few heads turned. My friend Eric, standing behind her, glanced at the folder and his jaw tightened. Someone pulled out their phone. Emily's fingers trembled as she dug through the folder. The photo on top was the one from the cafe. Max grinning, her hand on his arm, her wedding ring catching the light. I let it sit there for a second before I spoke. "This is my house. These are my kids. And you." I turned, raising my voice, looking directly at the small group of stunned faces. "You're never setting foot in here again." Emily tried to say something, but her mouth just opened and closed like she couldn't find the words. Her voice cracked. A few neighbors had their phones out now, capturing it all. One of them muttered, "Jesus Christ," under their breath. And then it happened. She fainted, right there on the patio. Her legs buckled and she went down hard, the box slipping from her hands, the contents spilling across the stone like shattered glass. I didn't rush to help her. I didn't even move. I just stood there, watching the last piece of her act dissolve. People around her called her name, knelt beside her, fanned her face. I stepped back and let them take over. Let them see. Later, when someone asked me what had happened, I told them the truth. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, she made her choice. Now she gets to live with it. Max didn't show his face that night. I wasn't sure if he ever would again, but I wasn't done with him. Not yet. I had bigger plans. Plans that stretch past this neighborhood, past the cameras, past the shame. He took money, he forged documents, he played games with my name, and now I was going to hit back where it hurt the most. Not with fists, not with fire, with silence, with proof, and with the kind of precision that ruins people in ways they never see coming. 6 days after the barbecue, Max finally made a move. Not in person. He didn't have the nerve for that. But through a burner number that lit up my phone with a message that felt like it had venom behind every word. You made a scene. That was cute, but this isn't over. I stared at it for a long time. Not angry, just steady. He still thought this was about pride. He hadn't realized I was already 10 steps ahead. Emily was gone. She left quietly the morning after the barbecue, muttering something about needing space. She didn't say goodbye to the kids. Didn't even look at me. Just walked out with a suitcase and never came back. I didn't stop her. I didn't ask where she was going. I already knew. While she vanished into silence, I kept moving. My lawyer filed everything. Every document, every photo, every piece of Reed's investigation, directly to the IRS and relevant financial institutions. Max had used forged documents, stolen funds, and my name to launch a company built on fraud. The fallout came fast. His accounts were flagged within days, and Reed captured him outside his office, red-faced and raging, kicking his car door and shouting into his phone. Then Emily tried to take the kids. I came home from work one afternoon and saw her car parked outside. The front door was wide open. Inside, I found the kids locked in their room, scared. A window upstairs was shattered. Glass everywhere. She tried to break in when they wouldn't let her in. That was the final line crossed. I called the police. A court-issued no-contact order came the next day. She was barred from coming near the house or the kids. There was no custody hearing, no legal fight. She didn't even try. That told me everything. She knew she'd lost the right to play mother. Then Max tried to sue me. Defamation, reputational damage, business interference. His lawyer sent a formal notice, full of bluster and lies, claiming I faked evidence and ruined him out of jealousy. I didn't respond. My lawyer already had everything she needed. I let it hang there for a few days like bait, and then I dropped the recording. Reed had pulled it from a mirrored drive, a copy of Max's laptop files. One audio file, time-stamped and clean. Max's voice, clear and sharp. If you don't help me, I'll leak your photos. You know the ones. Either you get Jack to sign, or I ruin both of you. Blackmail, threats, a man pushing Emily to help him manipulate me, to destroy me. I didn't send it to court. I sent it to his business partners, his investors, a few neighbors, even a couple journalists who monitored white-collar crime boards. The fallout was immediate. Within 48 hours, Max was arrested. 4 charges including fraud and blackmail, with more pending. His company collapsed. The lawsuit dropped before it even reached court. Emily didn't surface. Her name came up in the investigation, but no charges yet. She wasn't clean, but Max had left enough fingerprints for the system to focus on him first. I didn't feel relief, just a kind of quiet. Not peace, not yet, but a silence I could finally sit in without feeling like the walls were closing in. I'd cut the cancer out, protected the kids, locked everything down, and yet something still sat in the back of my mind. That last message Max sent me. This isn't over. He was wrong. It was ending, just not on his terms. The fallout didn't come all at once. It unraveled in slow motion, like the final seconds of a car crash. Everything already broken, but the weight of it still settling. Max's arrest made the news in a brief, tucked-away blurb. Local entrepreneur under investigation for fraud. No mugshot, no scandalous headlines, just a name and a string of cold charges. But for the people who mattered, the ones who trusted him, invested in him, worked beside him, the damage was done. The man they'd praised was a ghost now, and the silence that followed spoke louder than any headline. Emily didn't come back. Not for the kids, not for her things, not even to fight. She simply vanished. The no contact order stayed in place, but she hadn't even tried to test it. Maybe it was fear, maybe guilt, or maybe she finally understood that whatever she'd set in motion had taken on a life of its own, one she could no longer control. I thought about her less with each day, not out of healing, but from exhaustion. Some wounds don't scar, they just go numb. But I wasn't finished. Max may have been behind bars, but that wasn't the end I wanted. He wasn't just some guy who cheated with my wife and stole from my account. He was a man who vowed years ago to destroy me. And now I realized that all of this, had been a long, cold play. A decades-late promise delivered through whispers, charm, and lies. And even with the system chewing him up, I knew people like Max didn't just vanish. They lingered. They waited for cracks. So I made sure there weren't any. I went through everything. My credit, my tax filings, my insurance accounts. I pulled every document that had my name on it and scrubbed it clean. Froze the accounts. Locked the files. Reset the passwords. I even moved the kids' savings into a new bank entirely. I wasn't leaving anything open, not a single door for him to crawl through if he ever found a way to reach back. Then came the family barbecue. This one wasn't mine. It was my brother's, a low-key thing on the edge of town with people I'd known since college. I hadn't planned on going, but the kids needed normalcy, needed cousins, grass, and a world that didn't feel like it was built on lies. So I packed them into the car and drove out, forcing my face into something that resembled calm. It started fine. Laughter, smoke from the grill, beers cracked open under the sun. People asked about Emily. I gave them the same answer I'd been repeating like a script. She needed space. Things got complicated. Most didn't push. A few nodded like they understood. I didn't correct them. I didn't know anyone the full story. Not yet. But halfway through the afternoon, I noticed something. Phones. More than one. Subtle glances. People stepping away to whisper. A few looks in my direction. Not aggressive, just off. I followed one of them, an old friend of mine, Ben, and asked flat out what was going on. He hesitated. Then he handed me his phone, a video, posted just hours earlier. The quality was shaky, but the voices were clear. Emily's voice, crying, panicked, telling her side, saying I'd humiliated her publicly, set her up, claimed I was dangerous and manipulative, that Max had been trying to protect her from years of control. She called herself a victim, claimed I was the abuser. It was theater, a desperate rewrite of a story she had no control over anymore. But it was also dangerous, because lies like that, once out, have a way of spreading. I stayed quiet the rest of the afternoon, didn't confront anyone, didn't try to defend myself. I just sat by the fire pit, staring into the flames, thinking about how fast a narrative can flip. I had evidence. I had everything. But facts aren't always louder than drama, and Emily had found her stage again. When we got home that night, the kids fell asleep in the back seat. I carried them in one by one, tucked them in, then went back out to the garage. The box I kept, the one with the flash drive, the statements, the footage. I took it down from the shelf. I plugged the drive into my laptop and started organizing everything. Because now it wasn't just about defense. Now it was about truth. If Emily wanted a stage, I'd give her the whole damn spotlight. I didn't want to go public. I didn't want to drag my kids through more fallout. But if she kept pushing, if she made this about who people believed, I'd bury her with her own words, her own actions. I still had the footage from the doorbell, the cafe, the blackmail, her voice agreeing to everything, laughing with Max, calling me a fool, calling me a pawn. Let the world hear that. But not yet, because timing mattered. And she wasn't finished trying to crawl back into control. I could feel it coming. Something worse. A final attempt to twist everything before the floor disappeared from under her completely. She'd already lost the marriage, the kids, the respect of our friends. Max was rotting in a cell. Her story was all she had left. And when that crumbled too, I'd be there to watch her fall. Emily's video didn't go public in a viral sense, but it hit hard where it was aimed. Shared quietly, sent in group chats, passed around by people we once considered friends. She was crying in it, claiming I'd humiliated her, twisted everything. That Max, for all his mistakes, had just been trying to save her from years of emotional control. Her voice cracked perfectly. It was rehearsed, every word carefully chosen to sound raw and wounded. The damage wasn't total, but it was enough to get people whispering again. A few coworkers looked at me differently. A neighbor paused a second too long while waving. The kind of shifts you notice when you've had everything else stripped away. I could see what she was trying to do. Reset the narrative. Cast herself not as the woman who tore our life apart, but the one trying to survive in the wreckage. Then came the next hit, a custody filing. Full custody. Her lawyer framed me as emotionally unstable, dangerous even, citing the barbecue. The public exposure, as proof I was vindictive and unfit. The words psychological trauma were used, along with hostile environment. It was surreal, like she believed if she said it loud enough, the truth would just vanish. I didn't panic. I just called my lawyer. We countered with everything. The police report from the day she broke the window, the therapist's notes, the no contact order, and most of all, the audio of Max blackmailing her. Her silence in that recording said more than anything she could have cried on camera. The court didn't need long to decide. Her motion was suspended. The kids stayed with me, but I knew she wasn't done. A few days later, Reed sent me footage from a garage downtown. Emily was there, meeting a man in a suit. They exchanged something, a folder. Then she kissed his cheek. Reed ID'd him as a corporate investigator for one of Max's defrauded investors. She was trying to flip the narrative again, offering herself up as a victim, feeding them a new version of events to save herself. I didn't react, just gathered everything I had and met with that investor's firm myself. I laid out the documents, the footage, the truth, how she'd helped Max access our finances, how she passed him confidential records, how she wasn't coerced. She was involved. The man took the folder, asked a few questions, promised nothing. I didn't need promises. I just needed the truth in the right hands. At home, things were better. The kids were laughing again, sleeping, drawing on the fridge like nothing had ever been broken. I was careful not to talk about Emily unless they asked, and even then I kept it gentle, honest but not cruel. Then one night, a car parked outside the house. Lights off, engine running. It stayed 10 minutes, then drove off. I didn't need to see who it was. She was circling again, still hoping there was something left to take. But the court ruling came in days later. Full custody awarded to me. Her rights suspended indefinitely. No contact allowed without court oversight. No appeals, no visitation, nothing. She was out of their lives, not in some dramatic way. Just gone, like the storm finally passed, and all that was left was quiet, the kind that stays. The morning we left Seattle, the sky was that dull, overcast gray that never seemed to lift. The house was already empty, echoing with the kind of silence that only follows years of noise. I stood alone in the doorway for a moment, keys in hand, watching the place where everything had unraveled, where the walls had soaked in laughter and lies in equal measure. I wasn't sentimental, just steady. That house wasn't home anymore. It hadn't been in a long time. The kids were already in the car, buckled in with snacks and headphones, excited about the road trip and the idea of somewhere new. They didn't ask about Emily anymore. Her name had stopped coming up weeks ago, and I never pushed. If she wasn't going to fight for them when it mattered, then I wasn't going to waste breath defending someone who'd already walked out of their lives twice. We drove east. No timeline, no pressure, just space and time to decompress. I had job offers in a few different states, quiet opportunities far from the circles we used to belong to, but it was Colorado that stuck with me. Boulder had always felt like the right kind of reset. Clean air, open sky, and just enough distance between us and everything we'd left behind. By the time we pulled into our new street, the trees were shedding their leaves in those early flashes of gold and red. The house was smaller, cozier. A rental at first, but the kind that already felt more like a home than anything we'd lived in before. The kids picked their rooms, raced down the hall barefoot, opened every cabinet like they were explorers in a new world. For the first time in months, I heard nothing but joy in their voices. My new job wasn't anything flashy, a position teaching trauma psychology at the local university. Not quite what I used to do, but close enough to stay grounded and different enough to feel like progress. The irony wasn't lost on me. After everything, I was the one standing at the front of a classroom, helping people process pain. But maybe that's why it fit. I knew the terrain now. The woman I met there wasn't someone I expected. Her name was Claire. She worked in student support, former military, quiet, measured, the kind of strong that didn't need to announce itself. We crossed paths during a faculty workshop. She asked if I was new in town, and I said, yeah, brand new. She didn't press, didn't ask about my past, just listened, nodded, and told me where the best coffee was. That was it. Simple, respectful, human. It started slow. Lunch, then coffee, then afternoons at the park with the kids. She never tried to fill a role or force her way in. She just showed up over and over with a calm steadiness that made the world feel safe again. The kids liked her. My daughter drew her into a crayon picture without prompting. My son asked if she could come to movie night. That was all I needed to know. We didn't talk about Emily, not at first. Claire never asked, and I didn't offer. But she knew something was there. You don't come to a place like this unless you're running from something or toward something better. Eventually, I told her, not everything, but enough. About the betrayal, the forged accounts, the custody fight, about how close I came to losing everything. She didn't flinch, just sat with it. That silence meant more than 100 apologies ever could. Life didn't magically smooth out. There were still hard nights, still court letters to sign, paperwork to finish, reminders of a past I wasn't quite free of. But they stopped defining the days. They became background noise to something better. The kids smiled more, slept through the night. I started breathing again, real full breaths that didn't sit tight in my chest. Sometimes I still got messages. One came from Emily's old number a few weeks after the move. No words, just a picture of a drawing the kids had made years ago. I stared at it for maybe a minute, then deleted it without replying. Another came from a mutual friend, asking if I'd heard what happened to Max and Holding. I didn't ask for details, I didn't care. That chapter was closed. Now in the evenings, we sit by the fireplace. The kids, Claire and me. Sometimes it's a game night, sometimes a movie, sometimes nothing but quiet. The kind where you hear a page turning or someone's foot tapping under a blanket. I live in that silence now. Not because there's nothing left to say, but because we've finally said enough. The pictures the kids draw are taped up along the hallway, crooked and bright. There's one with stick figures. Me, my daughter, my son, and Claire, all holding hands under a sun that's way too big. I didn't ask them to include her. They just did. I think that's how you know something's right. No pressure, no script, just presence. And me? I'm not healed. That's not the word I'd use. I'm aware of what broke, what I lost, and what I almost let define me. But I didn't let it. I carried it, carved a path through it, and I'm still walking, every step a little lighter than the last. Emily's name hasn't crossed my lips in weeks. There's no court hearing on the calendar, no investigator's number on my phone, no more parked cars outside the house, just peace earned, and finally mine. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.